Hi everyone, it's me Nikki here with my 10 tips to prepare for a job interview. One of my previous jobs in an organization used to be a job coach where I would assist people with preparing for their job search efforts. I would kind of teach them interview skills, teach them how to prepare for interviews and for getting that job, their dream job that they wanted. I wanted to pass these tips on to you in case you're in that same situation. So tip number 1 is social media cleanup. This is huge nowadays. A lot of organizations now are looking at their applicants' Facebook pages, Twitter pages, LinkedIn pages. They want to see anything that's going to stand out and be a red flag for them. Go on all of your social media sites and make sure there's nothing on there that you would be embarrassed by or that you would not want that potential employer to see. Double check all of them because you never know which ones they're going to pop up on. And so you want to make sure that you're not ranting on there and that you don't have a lot of negative comments. You want to make sure you're represented well. Another thing is with your resume. You don't want to have an inaccurate resume. Make sure that all the information is valid, the employments are correct, the places of employments are correct, because sometimes employers do match that against your state employment records. And if your state is saying that you worked, certain places and things like that, and you don't have that on your resume, that's a red flag. Tip number 2 is to have your references in order prior to your submitting an application anywhere. And I'm talking about your personal references. Your job references, previous employers, you do not need to contact. That's a given that employers are going to contact them or may contact them. But your personal reference, you want to call them and you want to ask them if they mind being a personal reference or a work reference for you. You do not want them to get that surprise call saying, hey, I'm calling about a reference on, Minnie Mouse or whoever the case may be, because then you may not get as good as a reference as you could have if you would have given them heads up and given them the courtesy of asking also, because a lot of times that's the worst thing in the world is to get a call and someone is asking for a reference on someone and you haven't talked to that person in 10 years, So definitely you want to line up the individuals that you want to provide a reference for. You make sure that they're individuals that are going to speak well of you, and then you want to definitely call them ahead of time and line that up. That is huge, and you definitely don't want to skip on this tip. Okay, tip number 3 is to set up your portfolio before your interview. As soon as you know that you're on the market for a job search, you want to have this ready to go so that anytime an interview comes up, it may be last minute, you're prepared and you're ready. And you can get these at any office supply store for about $10 and under. Sometimes they have them on sale, but they're very inexpensive. It's just simple. It's not anything kind of like a planner or organizer, but it keeps you looking sharp when you go in your interview. You don't want to go into the interview with a lot of bags, a briefcase, a purse or big purse. I never do that. I simply walk into the interview with my portfolio in hand. This is typically how I have it set up, and I encourage you to just keep it simple. You're going to have a writing pad on one side so that you can write down any notes during the interview that you need to write down, any follow-up that they're requesting that you do, anything additional you need to provide. Just having that writing pad is so very key. Along with having your resumes on hand, you definitely want to bring your resumes to your interview. Even during the application process, if you've provided them with your resume, never go on your interview without additional copies. I recommend 5 to 10 copies on hand because you never know how many people are going to be sitting in on that interview, and you want to be prepared to give each person a copy of your resume, and it sends a good sign when you have that on hand that you're prepared. I like to have a sticky pad on the side in case I just need to jot down a quick note, my business cards if that is a company that you're providing business cards to, and have their contact information, whether it's on their business card or in case you type it out, but have that in your portfolio so that you have the address of the location you're going to, who you're interviewing with, their contact information in case anything happens en route. You just definitely want to keep all of that in hand, have it prepared the night before, so that you're ready. Also have 2 writing pens with you. You definitely want to have 2 because if one messes up during your interview, you have a backup that you can just keep, grab it and go and move on smoothly. You don't have to ask for one, and you come off very prepared. Now with the writing instruments, and I have to say this because this is my business and I love beautiful writing instruments, and a lot of business professionals do notice that. They notice if you have a nice writing pen and they will compliment you on it, and that's just kind of a small way that you can stand out with a business professional, so definitely look at that. Tip number 4 is thank you cards. Have your thank you card written out with the stamp on it, addressed and ready prior to your interview. Tuck it behind your resumes in your portfolio so that they can't see it. And the key is to mail it as soon as you leave and walk out of that interview. You walk out of the interview and you go to the post office box and you drop it in the mail so that they will receive it about 1 to 2 days after your interview. It tells them that you do respond, you do follow up. It also tells them that you do it promptly, and it's just a nice gesture. Do not write a long letter or anything. Just a simple thank you for your time and I enjoyed the interview and things like that. And the great thing about mailing it right after you leave that building for your interview and them getting it like the next day or so, they may be in the decision process, and that just gives them another reminder about you. And so you definitely want to not hold it and wait on it, and don't hand deliver it. Tip number 5 is practice, practice, practice. This is one thing I've always stressed. Prior to your interview, grab your spouse, grab a friend, whoever will practice with you, and practice interview questions. You can go online and you can just Google job interview questions and practice some answering questions. It doesn't matter that the questions are the same ones that you're going to be asked. It's the process of answering questions on the spot and preparing yourself. This will be huge in preparing you for your interview. Make sure that you get proper rest and have a proper meal prior to your interview. You definitely don't want to go in there sluggish and tired, so you want to make sure you get enough sleep the night before, and you want to make sure you don't go into the interview hungry because it can affect your answers, your appearance, and things like that. You also, I want to caution you, don't eat anything that is going to turn your tongue a different color, such as red and purple, because that can be very distracting in an interview and not come off too well. Now, this is huge. Be on time. That is key for an interview. That says so much about you. So you definitely want to be on time for your interview. Now, you don't want to be too early. So I want to caution you about that, because sometimes you can throw your interview, you can throw the interviewer off because you showed up too early. They may not be ready for you. They have a specific time for you, and they kind of expect you around that time. They may be interviewing other folks and not wanting you to see them, that kind of thing. So I would be 5 to 10 minutes early. Do not walk if your interview is at 10 o'clock, don't walk in at 10 o'clock. Walk in 5 minutes till 10, but definitely get there early. Sit in the car, wait, relax a little bit, read a book, do something relaxing in your car, but do not physically walk in that building until it's 5 to 10 minutes before your interview time. That's the perfect time to show up for your interview. And definitely you do not want to show up late. That is a huge, huge no-no. Okay, we all know the cliche, dress for success. This is so key though. You want to dress appropriate for the position that you're applying for. If you're applying for an office job, you want to dress for that job in a business suit, or what is the attire for that job. Let the employer see how you will be coming to work. If you're going for an interview in a dress shop, dress appropriate. How would you come to that job? Wear their clothes that come from that shop if that's what you're interviewing for. Dress appropriately for the position that you're applying for. It's very key, because again, it tells the employer, okay, this is how they're going to present themselves for my company. Another thing I want to say is be careful about the fragrances and cologne. Don't overdo it. I would even recommend not doing it. You don't want to load it on too heavy. Now, tip number 9 is the receptionist. A lot of times in an organization, the receptionists and secretaries are overlooked, and they should not be. They are key to the organization. And a lot of employers, they put a lot of emphasis on the advice of their receptionist and their secretary. A lot of times they will come and ask them, how did they come in? What do you feel about them? Is that somebody that you feel you can work with? They will get advice from the secretary and the receptionist on you, your presence, and what they think about you, and they will use that in their decision-making process. So when you go in, be kind, be cordial. Don't over-talk the receptionist, because then you can come off as being a little agitating, and they may be like, I don't really want to work with that. So very key. And tip number 10 is to be natural, be confident. Know that the person sitting across from you in the interview was in the same position you were in before. We all put on our pants the same way. We're all human. No one is better or less than the other. So be natural when you go in there and sell yourself. Don't be overconfident. Be confident enough to know that you deserve this position and you have a lot to offer this organization. And know that and express that to the person that is interviewing you, and you will do well. So I hope that these tips that I've shared with you have helped helped you. I can come to you in the future with more actual interview tips. Everything I shared with you today was kind of up until the interview to kind of prep you for getting through the door to the interview. I hope you have enjoyed, and this is Nikki saying goodbye.